Now, this session leads nicely on. We started talking a little bit about return on investment, and we now have Bob Puccini, who's Chief Executive Officer of Puccini Group. Just a little bit about Bob. He started in the kitchens as a dishwasher at the age of 16. He worked in hotels. He became partner and senior vice president of Kimpton Hotels and Restaurants. He then started up the Puccini Group some 20 years ago and has advised clients on some 1,000 restaurants worldwide, I think. And Bob has a particular passion about utilizing space and making sure space is utilized correctly, particularly for a return on investment. So Bob is going to be speaking on restaurant concept and design, getting it right, maximizing your return, and we're going to hear about success factors in design and key innovations and return on investment. So Bob, please come and join us on stage.
Can you hear me? Looking for the clicker. Good. First of all, let me just say a couple of things before I really get started. I only have 20 minutes, and the clock is running. First of all, in the US, the key return on investment points are typically for new construction. Owners, investors want to see a 5-year return. For renovations, they like to see 3-year returns. So planning that is part of the process of really what we try to do, and that is not just look at a concept from the standpoint is, does it make sense? Is it coherent? Will it work? Will people come in? But also, is there an operating concept that goes with the design concept that would consequently lead to profit? Secondly, and I think this is really important, we work all over the world. We're working with Sands, Disney, in Hong Kong, Macau. We've worked on all the Disney cruise liners. Principally, our company, we create food and beverage concepts, restaurants for those people where they need restaurants, but it's secondary or tertiary to the primary business. So somebody's doing something that's successful someplace in the world. It may not be Dubai, but there is almost nothing that I've ever seen that hasn't found someplace that works. You know, we talked about Peru. I was in Cusco a few years ago going up to Machu Picchu festival on the square, and what was the primary food for the people in Peru to munch on while they were going to the fair? Guinea pig. So there's nothing that doesn't work somewhere that isn't popular for somebody. So I just wanted to start out with that, because creating a restaurant that works is really just as much about trying to understand the market that it's in, the micro market. Let's see, am I going the right directions? Things are really changing in our world, and I've been in this business a long, long time. First of all, the public is getting younger. People's expectations and how they communicate, you know, my niece is helping, she's going to school in Rome this semester, is helping me here. She's studying architecture, and I can't call her anymore. I have to text her. The world for young people has changed from my old world of calling, hi, how are you, what are you doing, yeah, I need some more money, to just a text. In any case, this world is changing fast, and it's going faster. All of these things are available, these brands of communication on the internet. And interestingly enough, I was a keynote speaker a month or so ago at the airline concessions conference. And part of that speech was about how they really have to start to get with what are the norms in the restaurant and food and beverage business in the rest of the world. And out of that, I found, which is actually a fairly interesting piece of software, it's called Before You Board. And and it's just emerging in the US, where you can actually, from your cell phone, you can order a custom meal, pick it up when you board the plane, and get on with your meal. And flying down here, I happened to come out of Ukraine the other day, and believe it or not, Ukraine Airlines, which you wouldn't think of as necessarily the most highly sophisticated, is now allowing you to order your business class meals via the internet and have a specialty meal. So these things are happening at such a low, kind of a grassroots level, where people's expectations of what they're going to get is moving up. This slide is a little bit wrong, but the circle was supposed to come in after I just showed you this landscape. But this is in Kerala. This is what's changing things. What is in that circle is a cell tower. Now that is, if any of you have ever been to the backwaters of Kerala, know it's a pretty sparse place. But those people now have access to everything we have. They can see everything on the internet, they can get all the news, they can see movies, and they take advantage of it. So there's a whole lot of media that has changed our world around us. Television being probably television and movies next to the internet. I remember talking to my dad about things that changed in his life, but it seems strange, but I can remember getting the first color TV on the block in the United States. It wasn't that long ago. It may seem a long time to some of you guys, but it wasn't that long ago. Things are moving so quickly. Interior design magazines are worldwide. Television, food channels are available in China on Chinese national TV. Movies, if anybody's been to an IMAX theater that has 3D, you know you can't just go to a movie anymore. So expectations are rising. And all of this stuff really falls back as well on restaurants. The last thing I really want to mention on this slide is the impact of women travelers. When I was sitting here yesterday, I was thinking a number of the folks that were up here speaking actually had bits and pieces of things I wanted to talk about today, but it is absolutely true. Women make most decisions about dining out, about vacations, about purchases, whether we guys like to think about it or not. When was the last time you just said, this is where I'm going to go, I don't care what you want, it's always, where would you like to go tonight, dear? In any case, women are making a big difference. And years ago, I used to be able to fly first class in the United States because I was vice president of a national company, and there were no women, period, no women ever. But now, probably half of first class is with women. Women are making a huge impact around the world, and not just in Western countries, but in Middle Eastern countries. I mean, we all read the news. Everybody wants the good things. It's not enough just to be in existence. So the evolution of style, in many ways, over the last 20 years or so, has really accelerated. A lot of this is because of technology. There's a lot of substitution. You can find a brand. Somebody mentioned Louis Vuitton, but there's 20 other things that look very close to Louis Vuitton that if you don't look at it closely, you wouldn't know. Goods as a percentage of cost of goods, as a percentage of income is going down, price is going down, and the ease of acquisition is going up. And as Steve Jobs famously said, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, people are being shown this every day. It's available on the internet. Thanks to Mr. Google. You can find whatever you want. So this really now gets us to really the point of what I want to start to talk about. In an age of differentiation, how do you create the right concept? Now, we've heard a lot of people talk about celebrity chefs, the right locations, big investments. But the reality is, no matter which of those you choose, you have an equal opportunity to lose, because all of them have won, all of them have lost. So how do you calculate that? How do you give yourself a little bit of a start on this. We do something we call concept strategy reports, and this is a small commercial, and I apologize for that, but, and unfortunately these are small slides, but I'll be happy to show you a big one. We have a table out there. Up in the left-hand corner is fundamentally it's a values and lifestyle chart. And that values and lifestyle is something that used to be called psychographics. Today it's values and lifestyles. It basically measures this. As an example, I have a question. How many people here are investors? How many people are operators? What am I forgetting? How many people are in the hotel business? Yeah. Okay, a lot of you, I could tell. Oh my God, there's nothing but dark suits out there. So if dark suits are really, if there was a dark suit store for hotel people, it would be chock-a-block right now, I'm sure, because if you go to a conference like the Berlin conference last week, Jonathan, I mean, it is a sea of black and white. And that's why I always try not to wear black and white, just because it distinguishes me a little bit and I stand out. But the reality is, there's characteristics that go with that that really have to do with how you meet life. And this started with me a long time ago, but the reality is, you know, what kind of car do you drive? You know, if you drive a Jaguar or a Mercedes, your value system is slightly different than if you're driving an Opel or a Skoda or something like that. In San Francisco, I don't know if you know San Francisco, that's where I live. In San Francisco, there's 750,000 people in the physical city of San Francisco. There's about 5.5 million in the greater Bay Area. San Francisco is ringed by Marin in the north, Berkeley across the bay, and Oakland across the bay. But if you look at, and it's all part of the same SMSA, which is basically a standard marketing area. But the truth of the matter is if you were to look at the majority of the cars, as an example, in San Francisco, they're going to be BMWs, Mercedes, people probably buying Xenia, designer clothes. If you go to Marin, there's going to be that's where the Grateful Dead used to live. You're going to find more sports cars, more four-wheel drives. It's going to be way more casual. Berkeley, typically it's going to be Volvos, Jeeps. Over in Oakland, it's going to be American cars. And what they all wear is slightly different. Now, those people are all part of the same close-knit community, but the kind of restaurants that are successful in those areas are really radically different. That's what Values and Lifestyles talks about. Below that, the bigger chart is basically just a competitive review of the restaurants that we feel are in a trade area. Trade area for us is that area that is likely to be served that you can count on your customers coming from. So my office is across from an Omni hotel, which has got fairly mediocre food, but the advantage is if anybody comes in at 11 o'clock and they say, well, let's have lunch, I know I can get in there because the other restaurants that I would really like to go to are all too busy without a reservation in advance. So the trade area for Omni is probably within a block or two. But if it's a Saturday night, its trade area goes literally to zero. It just goes to the tower. Whereas the other restaurants, the trade area is virtually the whole city of San Francisco. So understanding your trade area, who your primary competitors are, and in regard to various parts of their business, decor level, check average, celebrity chef, bar, how big a bar, those kinds of things become very important, and what the food is that they serve. Then in this upper right-hand corner is a product positioning map, and that fundamentally plots where those restaurants are vis-a-vis check average and decor. And there's a lot of ways you can find that. So, by the way, we've done every Tivoli hotel in Portugal. We have an office in Istanbul and Madrid. We've worked on projects in Turkey, South America, Central America, North America. these things are always available. Somebody, someplace has got them. So then from that, you move into design, because once you've established who the customer is, what you really have to do is do a layout. And we do full CD drawings. And really what the design concept is, it is the marriage of that concept that you find that is missing, the hole in the market, with a budget, so that you can start to look at, can you get your money back, because you've already predicted what the sales are going to be, so that in every design concept there needs to be an operating concept. You can't just do a beautiful restaurant without knowing how it's going to work, because that's where you're going to lose money. We provide pre-opening services. We also manage, either on an asset management basis or a full management contract basis, restaurants in North America currently. We believe in coherency, so the concept actually has to have all aspects of it, from uniforms to name to tabletop to branding, marketing. And this is something that we do that is kind of unusual, and it really goes back to the ROI issue. This particular one I just pulled out of one of our projects. It was a restaurant I'm trying to remember, it was like a 500, 600, 700 room hotel. It was running about 80% occupancy, and you can see the numbers for, I think, 2010 and 11. I mean, a real good Starbucks would be doing those volumes, and this was the 3-meal restaurant. So it's pretty abysmal, and they asked if we thought it was possible to do $6 million in sales. And what we did is we went and looked at the standalone restaurants. We found very quickly that standalone restaurants were doing probably between $6 and $10 million. So the fact is, people were doing it in the trade area. People were there. This was across the street from the city convention center. So then we put together the numbers in such a way, because as someone mentioned earlier, hoteliers have a phenomenal way of creating P&Ls that are meaningless for food and beverage in terms of really managing. They thought they were doing pretty well, but the reality is if you took the actual labor from schedules and time cards, the reality is they weren't doing very well at all. But there's a concept of fixed and variable labor that is really important in restaurants, because no matter what anybody says, the only way you're going to make money is if you start to move into that fixed labor zone. Everything else in a restaurant P&L is variable, basically on a cost per customer basis. I don't want to get too technical, but as an example, every time you sit down and eat, you're using a knife, fork, spoon, a napkin, blah, 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 blah. Those things have a cost to wash them, clean them, etc. What ultimately becomes fixed is the labor cost. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to talk faster now. That labor cost, as an example, if you do one turn in the dining room, your kitchen still has to be there. If you do 2 turns in the dining room, same kitchen, same number, cost goes down by half. So the trick to this game is to drive volume, no matter what anybody says. And really, the ultimate intellectual game is, how do you figure out what the volume is with a labor cost that is going to provide you with the highest possible probability of success in your concept, so that you're likely to get that turn in the dining room. So really, what we think our job is this. We believe that designing is the process of linking need with desire. We have to eat, we want to go out. Our culture's moved to a cafe culture worldwide. Desirability is value by another name, a more inspiring and emotional name, to be sure. Would you rather be thought of as valuable or desirable? We're in the business of creating desirability via innovation. And for all of you in the hotel business, I think this is really true. And a number of people here are in the restaurant business, but let me say, we probably are working on between 50 and 100 projects all the time around the world, and so we see a lot. A room is a room. It's a commodity today. What do you do in a room? You sleep. You shower, you get out of there. Globalization has really changed how people think. The fact that I'm here, that we've worked on a Jumeirah project here, we're very proud of. We're working on Dusit in India. When you see these things going on, you start to realize that this world is a lot more the same than it is different. It's really the cultural aspects of these things that you have to knit together properly and understanding the market. So understanding who your guests are in the broadest context and their expectations is what make restaurant concepts in design and art form. So what we're really selling is feelings and experience where the price of admission is food and beverage. And I will tell you this, elasticity in pricing, that is to say, if McDonald's can get, I frankly don't know, but let's say it's $3 for a hamburger, why can somebody else get $10? Hamburger's hamburger, right? You could say it's price per ounce, but the reality is a hamburger's a hamburger. This bar we worked on, this is in New Orleans, it's a carousel bar. The bar actually goes around. People pay premium to be there. This restaurant we developed and operated. It was in San Francisco. It was in one Condé Nast Hot New Tables of the World. But you can only really create this successful guest experience with social spaces when you know how your customers want to feel. Designing for the global traveler. I just came from 3 countries. I go on to Jakarta the day after tomorrow to start a new project. So designing for the global traveler, there's certain things that you all want, you expect. Restaurants in the finest hotels throughout the world reflect an international design standard, but, and I think this is important, they are also modified to the local culture and native aesthetic. This is an Indian restaurant. This actually is a Thai restaurant done in India in a tent. Design has to be the visual manifestation of a concept. And I'm out of time, but I'm gonna keep going for just a moment. People think of communication as reading, writing, language, but the reality is communication is color, style. I mean, you would never see this chandelier as an example in somebody's bedroom, but if you walk into a big room, you think, oh, this makes sense, it's a ballroom. Color makes a difference, how colors are put together, style makes a difference, and people react to that. Demands are increasing and escalating. Aesthetic is now, and I think this is very clear here in Dubai, as well as all of the Emirates, is it's become a universal human desire, and it's affordable. It's affordable at some level. You can go to a hamburger joint today, right down the street here, and you can find something that's pretty comfortable, buy your hamburger, and you can have an experience. So that the person that's, let's say, lower middle class can move up to that, the guy in the middle class moves up to the other. What we're really doing in many of these cases is we're providing mini vacations. People live not in nice houses always. They don't have designed furniture. And so where can they go for a little bit of the life that they've been seeing on TV or on the internet? They go to a restaurant. They rent it for a couple of hours. So some of our brands and some of our projects. And with that, I'm done, and I'm sorry I ran over. Jonathan.
Great. Thanks, Bob. We are short of time, I know, but just a quick one. You're doing projects around the world. To you, where is the most exciting part of the world now for restaurants that you're creating?
Well, that is a much harder question than you can imagine. I actually was going to go in the Foreign Service before I got into this business, and that's why I was studying for a PhD to do that. And my affinity is for emerging countries. I like to go places where there's a desire for people to grow and have a better life. I like South America, I like Central America, I like Eastern Europe. I think these places are really fascinating because they're hungry for what we have, and frankly, they're so grateful when we give it to them that it's easy to create a success. Coming to Dubai, I mean, I always think of Dubai, and I hope you're not too terribly offended. I think of this as like Las Vegas. I mean, there's just one concept after the other, and they've all been said, and they've all been done. What would be fun to do in Dubai is really to try to think about what would be unique for Dubai. Because right now, everything is a knockoff of somebody else. I mean, basically, it's the Louis Vuitton knockoff of restaurants. So I think it would be fun to do something that's truly unique. Sorry if I offended anybody with that.